Tribe, how are you? Today's share is discernment, staying in your integrity, and or staying in your integrity, staying in your personal, like, intuitive knowing, right? Your divine spark, your soulful connection, your loving heart, right? And this is coming off the back of Amanda's share, which I will put in the description as well, eventually. And it's basically about seeing a situation and being very kind of aware of our own triggers and our own thought process and what we're projecting and all that kind of stuff, and yet watching a situation unfold that kind of triggers you in such a way where you're aware that how someone else is behaving is I guess bullying or attacking or just shady, or something's not quite right? And or literally, like, someone's actually hurting someone else or doing something just not cool, right? Like, that's not nice. We are the Fearless Life Tribe, so it's like we want to be practicing kindness, like loving compassion, a loving presence, and not to, you know, pretend to be holy or anything, but really practice just love. And it's a different way, because we start to see the reactive patterns in ourselves. We do start to see how we judge ourselves and one another, and yada 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 yada. And yet what I'm witnessing in myself, and clearly what's coming up for the tribe, is this sorry guys, I'm actually in a parking lot and now someone's just pulled up, so I'm getting some privacy. What's coming up for us more empathic, more sensitive, who found it really hard kind of working in different dynamics, because of our sensitivity, there's a lot of us now being asked to, you know, stand our ground, stand in our loving power, and call out corruption, as it were. That might seem a little bit extreme. It probably is extreme for my situation, for sure. It's more to do with just shining light onto shades, onto darkness, standing in your loving power and saying, no, I don't think that we should be doing it like that. Or, you know, I see that. I'm aware that this is what's going on. This needs to be addressed, you know? And there's always discernment. Discernment is this inner sort of intellectual awareness capacity to know the difference. So know the truth versus the shades. The intuition will ask us to stand in our loving power at times in our lives and face the darkness. That's the point of the Fearless Life Guide, is to face it rather than run away from it, to know that we have that emotional resilience and grit and that intellectual mental capacity to discern, to know the difference, to say, yeah, my intuition is asking me to step up right now, is asking me to stand up. And a lot of us have that trauma in such a way, and that a lot of us have repetitive sequences in our lives where life has potentially asked us to step up and we didn't, and life didn't go to play, you know, life didn't kind of turn out how we wanted, and we ended up spiraling down a hole rather than life getting better and better because we didn't listen to that intuition that asked us to leave a situation, or it told us to say no to that person and we just said yes anyway, and, you know, told us to walk away, you know, whatever. Is that a lot of us are here now in this tribe because our past experience has shown us that when we deny the heart, that when we deny the intuition, that when we don't listen, that when we don't speak up, that when we we end up getting walked over, or we end up perpetuating shady patterns, right? And because of the depth of the energy shift in the collective, because of the speed with which veils are being lifted and information is being spread, it's just a reflection that's happening for a lot of us right now, is saying it's okay. We are allowed to face this now. It's because we know in the truth we're not coming from a place of attack. It's not about going, you've done this and you're a horrible person and blah blah blah. It's just saying, I'm aware that this is happening and there's some issues here, that these issues do need to be addressed. However, it's not necessarily our responsibility to fix them for someone else. In fact, it's never our responsibility to fix them for somebody else, but we can shine light for people. And then we navigate with greater awareness. With each cycle, with each lesson, with each learning, with each situation, we can all move forward with greater awareness and greater self-responsibility and greater humility and greater discernment capability, right? That discernment is such a piece, and it's something that, you know, I see in a denial of mass education. You know, it's critical thinking. It's honing in with the mind that every human has the capacity to do, and yet systematically we deny that for a privileged few. And so those of us who feel connected, who desire being of service in our own lives, certainly, and you know, in whatever small way or big way desire to make those changes, we really can, in quite graceful ways, step into our power and call stuff out. I think why we're being asked also is that collectively there is enough awareness, there's enough scientific research, there is enough academic study and proof around different sort of pathologies and different shades and different people, what we call the empath and the narcissist, you know, like we're shining light on emotional abuse, on sexual abuse, on these inequalities that are still perpetuated through that power over energy, that irresponsible, the being that thinks that everyone else is responsible to it, that everyone must behave how it wants, but it does never have to change, and it never has to give of self, right? It just plays games. It just creates stories which are not necessarily truly of service to the whole. So a lot of us that have gone through these changes in this lifetime, it's because we're here to do that, and it is fun and it is liberating, but it's continuous. It doesn't end. And so the way we learn to ebb and flow with the energies, the way we work with energy is radically different from how we've been programmed, hence the discernment. And hence the self-love, because we need to be easy on ourselves, because we're all in it. We all have these different darknesses and shades and things to work with. That's how I can forgive myself for my own heartache in this last cycle. Is I see how I messed up. I see how I ran away rather than run towards. I saw how I projected a lack of because of my own disempowered patterns, basically, right? So now as I integrate, as I feel, as I face, and then continue to ask myself to show up, new opportunities, new people, new things, everything just kind of like swirls around, and then there's like these new directions. And often, you know, in words and talking, people are like, oh, that's so much, or oh, that's going to be, and you're like, oh no, it's all contained within that divine spark. It's all contained within that high vibrational manifestation. And so energetically, you're fully supported. Nothing, there's no fear around this next phase, because I can feel that my beingness is being carried through. And knowing collectively the broader stories and the timeline and the kind of the numbers and the cycles of the years that we're in, and all various things, right, are aligning to the point where it's like, oh yeah, now it's on, now it's really happening. Now we're seeing this huge surge, right, in the collective with the meditation, mindfulness, blah, 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 the plastic, it's all kind of connected to, do you know what, in a really simple way, it's really all connected to us just loving ourselves more. And through that, kind of letting ourselves be more vulnerable, be more real, break it down, so that we can keep transforming that energy, right? Until more obvious, clear pathways show up for more of us to navigate more harmonious systems, more fair, more just, like those kind of pillars of just, again, our common humanity on one planet that we share. And that might seem really idealistic, but to me it just makes sense. And it has nothing to do with burying the head in the sand or not facing the problems, right? As long as we carry on complaining about the world or moaning that it's poopy or that everyone's shut down and nobody gets it, or whatever stories we tell that project some illusion onto the world around us that isn't very nice, we want to be changing that. And there again is the point of us being able to call stuff out, because we're calling it out for ourselves. You know, we're calling out our own stories. That's something I see. Like, I can call out my own story and be guided. However, I can't do that for, I got a call. So yeah, our calling it out is calling it out in ourselves so that we can continue to rise, that we have a better chance of helping everybody rise anyway, you know? And it's that when we step into our power and call it out and do something kind of uncomfortable and challenging, we then can own more, right? That's the law of attraction, in essence, is that, and part of the piece that I think a lot of people kind of miss is that it's the energetic kind of being able to face the fears and being able to drop into your emotions and being able to do that kind of inner awareness stuff that allows you to pull in more of your high vibe desires, right? If we keep shying away, if we keep retreating, if we keep going back and telling the old stories, nothing changes. And if anything, we'll stay the same. We'll perpetuate slightly insidious cycles, right? We perpetuate those shades in our lives rather than shining them and then uplifting them, and shining them and then uplifting them. And it's something I'm really releasing as well, is like expectations, letting people just be where they are. Truly, like, we can call it out. I can call it out. What they choose to do with that is their choice. But that's love. That's love. You know, like, there's no judgment. There's no judgment, because again, from the depth of my being, I just sense like the judgment won't help, and so I need to just be able to accept all of the shades and all of the darkness and the gossip and the betrayal and the deceit and the like awkwardness, like all of that. You're just like, okay, like there's some stuff there and that's happened, but then I can shine light and then move on, you know, in the clarity of love, in the clarity of light, in the clarity of awareness and trust. Like, that's something else that's really locking in, is just this deep and profound inner trust and inner knowing and intuitive insight and faith. The faith is the trust, is the flow, is the ease, is the relaxation, right? It's the peace that we are inside. So the more we withdraw and the more we connect to that loving heart space, if we are being asked to shine light on something that we know isn't quite coming from that good place in somebody else, then we have power there. And it's, if we shine light and then we know we're just being attacked, or we know we're being belittled or patronized or whatever, then we just withdraw and assess, you know, and shape shift. Shine light for the whole. Shine light. See everyone getting along. Imagine people healing. Imagine people leveling up. Imagine people facing those fears in their own lives. As some people, we might have to imagine they have a breakdown. I know that might sound silly, but for some people you can see it, that there needs to be an emotional breakdown for them to be humbled, for them to be healed, right? And that comes from the awareness of knowing our emotional body is not wrong. Feeling emotions is not wrong. It's part of our power. But we've given our power to the world outside of us, and now it's time to reclaim it and shapeshift. Vibrationally start to see into a new reality. And ultimately, that new reality has everything to do with our state of being, how we feel on a day-to-day basis, how we're feeling inside of ourselves. So enjoy getting to know more of who you are and expanding into that love and using your discernment as a way to really refine that intuitive connection and that intuitive knowing, because that intuitive knowing is really what gets us to where we want to go. It's what really gets us into the flow, is just fully into that intuition, and accepting that we all have lessons along the way to get us there. And the lessons can be humiliating, and the lessons can be kind of like weird, and rage. Like, some of my lessons, I'm just like, why did I not see that? You know, and yet it's kind of fun and beautiful, and you always kind of get over it, and you get on the other side of it, and you're like, yay, I'm still okay and alive, and I'm happy, and everything's fine. Until the next trigger, right? But at least we all got each other. at least we all know what we're talking about here. And at least we know that, you know, more and more humans are asking for more. And that's a good thing. Because we can create a better world for sure. And it's right there. It's right there. It's right here. It's right here, guys. Pardon me. I love you loads. Have a great day. And I'll speak to you real soon. Bye, guys.